great to see so many of you here this morning, and hopefully later on this afternoon as well. We've got a packed session for you today. First of all, I want to say, well, thank you for coming, and we did actually think this wasn't going to happen with COVID putting a spanner in the works. This was supposed to be the 50th birthday party, but it is actually now 52. I do want to say thank you to John Hasler, who it was when we were doing the memorial plaque for the Green Gym, happened to mention that 2020 was going to be the 50th anniversary day of the practice, and that did feel like something that we should be celebrating. As I say, thanks to COVID, we're a bit later than originally planned. We really want this day to be a day of kind of looking back at the successes that have been in the practice and all the wonderful people that have actually worked here, and of course all our patients as well. We wouldn't be here without you. It's an opportunity, hopefully, to catch up with friends and previous colleagues. We're really pleased that so many people have been able to come today. And we want to really appreciate people and say thank you to you all, and for all the extra people that are affiliated with the practice. Many of whom you can see with the stands out today. Do wander around and look at those. We also thought it might give us a bit of an energising for the future as well, because it has been quite tough with COVID, but we're hoping that this will be a really good community event and get us looking forward to the future. There aren't any fire alarms, so if the fire alarm does go, then please do come outside. Hopefully most people will be outside anyway, but we do have in the waiting room, we've got some displays. Sue's done about sort of training. We've got loads of other things about history of the practice and stuff. There's some really interesting stuff. Sue Litchfield spent a long time gathering some of the history together for you all to see. And obviously there's tea and coffee and cake inside as well, which is very important. Displays, talks, wander around. So lunch, you should all have your vouchers. We'll be ready from sort of 12 onwards, and we'll be having pudding. We're going to cut the cake that I made at about sort of 2 with some champagne to toast the practice, and hopefully another 50 years in the future. But that's it from me for now. We've got a series of lovely talks. I'll be back later on to cut the cake and say a few other words. But please mingle, enjoy things, and the rota of talks are on the tables. So welcome everybody and have a fantastic time. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Kim. And yeah, it's great to see everyone. We're all looking a little bit younger, I think, than we did when I first arrived, which was actually 1991. So it's a real... Oh, do you want to turn it up? More volume. I'll try and get a bit closer. There we go. I should be able to do that. Is that all right? That's okay. So I want to take you back to Christmas Eve in 1997. So this was a classic kind of Sonning Common evening, Christmas Eve. I went to get something from a treatment room, and there was Sally doing the respiratory clinic, and she had a festival of 9 carols and 9 lessons on, blaring away while she was seeing patients and listening to their chests. And there was also Kerry going around checking that we had everything ready for the Christmas break, being totally organised as she always was, making sure everything was fine. Sheila was in the dispensary with her little Santa hat on, making sure patients getting their last medication before the Christmas shutdown. And as I remember, I just felt so happy. I felt this was a family. This was like a family that I was privileged to be working with. And it almost didn't feel like coming to work. Everyone worked so closely together. We were squeezing in those last patients. Hard to think now how even then on Christmas Eve we managed to see absolutely everyone from the day and get there. So that was kind of one of those memories I had, which I felt so strongly was so vivid. I arrived in 1991, and Sonning Common Health Centre also had a formidable reputation. It was full of innovation, from Tom Stewart, who I took over because he sadly died way before his time, but he was the computer person who actually made Sonning Common Health Centre one of the very first practices to have computerisation. John, of course, had been working in Oxford and getting all the academic side and the GP training sorted out with Pendleton, a guy who actually did the psychology. And we were, you know, whenever you mentioned John Hasler, his name was in lights. And so when I said I was going to Sonning Common Health Centre, everyone thought, wow, you've done really well. And I had. I don't know how they took me on. I always remember in the interview, they said, have you got anything to say? And I said, well, I've got no sense of direction. And I thought that was a joke, but I remember John and Andrew looking at each other quite seriously, thinking on how on earth he's going to find his way around Nettlebed in South Oxfordshire. And I have to say that during some of the times when we were doing on duty, no mobile phones, you get the directions on the phone, and the farmer up in Nettlebed would say, oh, it's all by the oak tree, and you can just go right by the gate, but you can't miss that old gate, it's the one that we have always done. And I thought, so you go off in the mist, you get there, about 100 oak trees and 5,000 gates, and you have to drive all the way back again or find a phone box to ask him, where on earth are you? And so my sense of direction probably was a problem. I couldn't even find my way out of some patients' houses either, sometimes. And of course, Annie, my wife, had to be interviewed as well, of course, because at the time it was very much an established figure to be in the community, and you had to make sure that we were all kosher. She passed as well. But there was immediate glamour to my job, not just in the shape of Kerry, and of course Andrew, the glamour, young people there, but I got my first temporary residents were Anthony Hopkins, Emma Thompson, Vanessa Redgrave, Helena Bonham Carter. And I thought, this is amazing. I've only been in the practice 3 months and already I've got these lists. Of course, they were filming at Howard's End. And I went up, and I'm going to not breach confidentiality here, and I will keep it vague, but I had to give a vaccination to one of the A-lists. I had to wait ages because, of course, they were getting the light right. And as I was waiting, I checked in one of the makeup artist's ears because she said she had a bit of a problem with her ear. So I got all my stuff out of my bag. And then finally, the person was ready. And of course, I felt really nervous having to go to give this injection of vaccination, and opened my bag and it was empty. And there was a bottom bearing of an A-list celebrity, and I had nothing in my bag at all. So I kind of just said, well, we need to get it from the fridge. Rushed back into the house because it was one of the caravans, tried to find where I put the ampule, and of course I left it on the radiator, which was hardy. Anyway, I did check, they're all still alive, so I think it couldn't have done damage, but it was a best job in the world as I felt it there. The culture and times of general practice at that point did create innovation, and we were an innovative practice. We are an innovative practice. It's continued on. But I remember the very first things that we did were the health walks. When I first realised that walking was such an important part. We had the health cycling as well, and the green gym that all came closely, all still thriving and still working on. And some of you remember, there were some health forecasts as well with the weather, which went out. And they actually evolved when I went to the Met Office to become the heat health warnings that we get now and the cold warnings. So it all started here in Solling Common. And the nature part of it from Green Gym, then we were bonkers thinking that nature impacted on health. But now the Treasury have given about £12 million to do innovation of green social prescribing. There's a unit down at the Exeter Medical School which is for nature and health. And it is now booming business and completely now straight line down the line. But again, we got it all done here. And it was really amazing team around that made this all happen. And all the volunteers. I'm just going to name, and I can't do it for all the things there, but let me just give you some names of the people who really made the health walks. And some of them, I think, are here at the moment. Anne Simons, Jill Greenwood, Jill Kendall, Anne Holt, Elizabeth Mitten, David Brewer, Richard Soden, John Hawke, Steve Rockall, Pat Rockall, Claire Bailey, Ian and Jean Foster, Val Lund, Jean Wheatley, Andrew Davis, Roy Pearce, etc., etc. Those are all names that some of you will remember. And that huge team, as well as the staff, made everything happen. And I think that's what was so incredible about this, that everyone was coming together. And by seeing the numbers here today, though it's not surprised that people felt they really did feel part of the health centre. It didn't always go to plan. I remember thinking how important it would be to have night health walks in the winter. And those you remember, we had big candles all around Peppard, and of course the wind blew them all out, and I had 20 very angry people walking around in the muddy, dark field trying to find their way out. And I think when I got back to the Red Lion with them, bedraggled, muddy shoes, I don't think anyone particularly wanted to repeat the experience. The Night Health Walks did one episode, and that was it. And then in the Green Gym, I remember that Yvonne bringing down some bow saws and axes for one of the clearances they were doing in the weekend. And she said, will you be needing these? As I was walking down the corridor, but unfortunately I was with a patient I was about to give a minor op to. And he said, I bloody hope not, he said, as she walked past. But thanks to Kerry's genius, and I do have to say she really was incredible, there she is, I can see her here, that we entered all the competitions and always became a finalist, which meant every single member, and I hope I'm right in here, of the health centre managed to go up to London for a glitzy ceremony, and I don't think we missed anybody out. Almost 5 years in a row, it was Sonning Common Health Centre again a finalist, and that was a genius of trying to get the bid together, making it look really good, which she managed to do. So there was a lot going on there, but there was also the normal stuff of seeing patients, and I'm going to give a little bit of an admission here. I can be a bit forgetful, and I can be a bit late sometimes. But I do remember turning up to a patient, and he clearly had a chest infection, and I said he needed antibiotics. There was no question about it. He was coughing up green phlegm, and but he said, well, aren't you going to listen to my chest? And I said, well, yeah, I don't think I need to, but you know, you've got a chest infection. Well, the reason I was hesitating was I'd forgotten my stethoscope. So I put up a 50p piece on his back and said, deep breath, deep breath, deep breath. And he was very happy that I'd actually listened to his chest. I could actually feel it through there. And he got the antibiotics. But there was improvisation, which I wouldn't probably now admit, now in general practice. But as it was a long time ago, I feel slightly safer. There was also a time when I was feeling a little bit kind of, stressed, and I was doing acupuncture. Now, acupuncture again was another innovation that was going on in the practice, brought on very much by the rheumatologist in Reading, and he was very keen on acupuncture for patients with rheumatology, and it worked incredibly well. Some of you may have even received it for neck and knees, and some of it in the back. But you put the needles in them and you leave the patient for about 10-20 minutes. But this was my last patient of the day. So I left the practice. And I got a call from the cleaner about an hour and a half later, and the patient says, how much longer do the needles need to begin? So I had to get back for dinner. I did run back and said, you did have an extra special time, and it will never come back, that pain. But I think to say I've done lots of other things since here, but I have always remembered that nothing will ever replace the experience I had here at the health centre. It was the best job of camaraderie, of being a family. I felt incredibly happy for all my time here. It was an incredible privilege. It was a massive team effort all the time. And not only was it just the staff, but it was also the patients and staff working together to make everything go and give, I think, probably the best medical care and professional medical care that we could possibly give, and it remains so as well. So for those 52 years, I think all of us can be incredibly proud to have been part of Sonning Common Health Centre, and again, as Kim said, let's hope there's another 52 years to go, but I don't think many of us will be around perhaps at that celebration. Thanks very much.